If you transition to more of a growth mindset and really believe, really know in your core that things are going to get easier and get better, that is going to be supportive of things actually getting better, right? And the same thing is true after you have a baby, right? This is time limited. It's temporary, right? The growth mindset can be applied to your business, right? You bring in kind of what is in your mindset. So whether that is repeating mantras or doing meditations, having some sort of practice around that mindset can be so supportive.
Welcome to Marketing and Mindset for Wellness Coaches, the podcast for health coaches and wellness entrepreneurs just like you who are building a business, making the world a healthier place, and designing a first-class life. I'm your host, Kim Foster, MD and certified business coach, and I'm on a mission to help you up-level your strategy and raise your mindset so you can truly thrive and grow your business. Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of the Marketing and Mindset for Wellness Coaches podcast. I am really excited to bring you a fantastic guest interview today, and I think that you're going to love it. You're going to listen in to my conversation with Dr. Ariana Witkin, who is a board-certified pediatrician. She's currently based in the Boston area, and she has been building and growing a wonderful coaching business as a postpartum coach and motherhood mentor. So I met Ariana when she reached out to me. It was about a year and a half ago because she had this idea in her head that she wanted to build a coaching business, but she had no idea how to do it. So we worked together and I helped her take the business idea that was only living in her head at the time and grow it into the amazing success that it is today. And the reason why I think you're going to love our conversation today is because we get into so many things that are important for mothers who are growing their businesses, because Ariana is a mother herself. In fact, her daughter was only 13 months old when Ariana started building her business. And we talk about exactly how to juggle raising a family and raising a business, because let's face it, ladies, it is not easy. But it absolutely is something that you can do. You just need some tools and some strategies and the right mindset. And those are all the things that Ariana shares with me during our chat. So if you are a mother, or if you have plans to perhaps become a mother at some point and you're building a business and wondering how on earth those two things can coexist, then you are going to love this conversation. So without further ado, let's dive in. Today on the podcast, I am honored to have Dr. Ariana Witkin with me. Ariana, who is otherwise known as Mama MD, is a postpartum coach and motherhood mentor. So think round-the-clock, practical and emotional support of a postpartum doula, but blended with the expertise of a pediatrician who totally gets your needs and your babies. So let me tell you a little bit about Ariana. She started her business after the birth of her daughter and after she experienced firsthand the lack of coordinated care and support for new mothers. Ariana is a board-certified pediatrician and completed her pediatric residency at the University of Washington, Seattle Children's Hospital. And you might have come across Ariana before because she has been featured in a lot of different places. She has contributed to Business Insider, Glamour, Very Well Family, and Baby Gaga, among others. So welcome to the podcast, Ariana. It is such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be chatting with you.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to this conversation. There are a ton of things that I want to ask you and learn about from you. So let's dive in. Now, I know that you have got tons to share with our listeners about the mindset and the strategy required to successfully grow your business while also growing your baby. And I know that many of my listeners' ears just perked up at that because this is a struggle I know so many women are dealing with, trying to juggle those two things, being an entrepreneur and a mom. And I know that you know all about this too, of course. So I'm excited to get to that. But before we do, I would love for you just to tell us a bit more about your story. Your origin story it's such a great one. And I would love for you to share a bit more about that. What brought you to this point and why you built the business that you did.
Yes, absolutely. So As you said, am a pediatrician, board certified. I became a pediatrician in 2015 and have been practicing clinically ever since. So I've seen thousands of children and families and mothers go through all aspects of the healthcare system. And really, throughout my medical journey, always felt like traditional Western medicine didn't serve women particularly well, kind of along the life course, but really around this childbirth, pregnancy, postpartum phase. It just felt like there was a piece we were missing. And I'm also a mom, as you mentioned. I have a beautiful, smart, very sassy 2-year-old girl named Sadie. And it really wasn't until my own experience as the patient, as the pregnant person, the birthing person, the postpartum person, that I could see what a disaster really postpartum care was in our Western society. So it was really blending my professional expertise and the gap I saw from that perspective, and then my personal experience as, a smart, well-equipped, educated person that I am, having access to so many resources postpartum and being a resilient person, and still feeling like I struggled immensely, still feeling like I was drowning, still feeling like even with all of that support and resources and knowledge, there were so many things that I did not know and didn't know really who to turn to for help. So really the blend of those two things is what motivated me to start my coaching practice so that I can empower women for this massive transition, which is having a baby.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that. And you are completely speaking my language. I mean, I know, well, we've had many conversations about this in the past that I know exactly what you're talking about. That was my experience too. As a family doctor, I thought that I knew what was coming for me when I had a baby. And I had absolutely no idea. I was completely unprepared and shocked at how unprepared I was and how little support I was getting. So that's so amazing that it's not amazing that you had to go through that difficult time, but that you then, it inspired you, right? To be, okay, this something's missing here, and I am going to fill this gap. I am going to see what I can do to help other mothers not have to struggle with this in this way that I have.
Yes, absolutely. I really just feel like what was missing is really that bridge between pregnancy and all of the care and support and love that physicians and the medical system and also society, right? Really, I think kind of holds pregnant women in this really special regard, right? We think of pregnant women as glowing and beautiful. And then, this gap to after the baby is born and people are really fixated on this newborn, and kind of any sense of what's happening to the mother, I think gets lost a little bit. So I really felt like there needed to be a bridge built between those two sides. And that's really what my goal is with my company.
Absolutely. That is so true. I mean, it's just so interesting, isn't it? Like pregnant women. I mean, I remember when I was pregnant, I felt like a VIP. I was like a special member. I was like a special member of society. People are holding doors for me. There's complete strangers are smiling at me, like all of this stuff. And then at the moment that baby came out, I was like, not really welcome anymore because
exactly.
I was like a nuisance. My kid was probably making noise. Like just my stroller took up too much space. Like it's just kind of amazing how we celebrate pregnancy, but then it's kind of like, well, afterwards, that's when things get really tough for me. That was my experience anyway. I think it was yours too.
Oh my gosh, yes, that was 100% my experience, right? You go from exactly as you said, this person that people are giving up their seat for on the subway, right? Kind of catering to you, to people, staring at you when your baby's crying and thinking like, why can't you just make that baby be quiet?
Exactly. Yeah, such an interesting thing. Oh my goodness. So I absolutely love that you have put yourself forward as somebody who is going to help to support women in this just such a difficult transition. And one of the things, of course, is that sometimes moms actually want to build a business and, might come at an inconvenient moment that they've got young kids at home too, right? But for women who are, have dreams and goals and would love to build a business, but And at the same time, they've got kids. So let's talk about that because I know for sure that that is a lot of my listeners too. So for moms who are building and growing a business, you and I are of the same opinion that you really do need to work on equal parts mindset and strategy. I mean, the name of my podcast is Marketing and Mindset. So clearly that's my perspective. But let's start by talking about the mindset piece. Like, how important is mindset when it comes to being a mom and an entrepreneur?
Oh my gosh, it is so, so, so important. And I will say for me personally, Kim, I did not understand that these things were equally important until I was really in it. I would say for me, I almost like skipped over this step. I mean, I did skip over this step really in the beginning and didn't really understand the concept that you invite in kind of what you're thinking about. Like you create what is in your mind. And this is so, so, so important, both when you are growing a baby and when you're growing a business, right? I think the same concept applies. So I think, when thinking about your mindset for both of these things, that you really want to think about having a growth mindset, right? And so what does that mean? I think, for example, if you're pregnant, pregnancy is amazing, but can also be really, really hard, right? Some people are exhausted or nauseous in the first trimester, not feeling well, but that's something that's time limited, right? So if your mindset is like, I'm never going to feel good again, I'm never going to be able to get out of bed, I'm never going to be able to eat food, right? That's going to put you kind of in that negative space, right? But if you transition to more of a growth mindset and really believe, really know in your core that things are going to get easier and get better, that is going to be supportive of things actually getting better, right? And the same thing is true after you have a baby, right? So for me, for example, breastfeeding was definitely the hardest thing that I have ever done. And I didn't remind myself that this is time limited. It's temporary, right? The growth mindset kind of adaptation would have been to tell myself that breastfeeding is within my control. It's within my power to develop my strengths, that things might be hard right now, but they're not always going to feel this way. And I think, again, the same thing can be applied to your business, right? You bring in kind of what is in your mindset. So whether that is repeating mantras or doing meditations, or for me, one thing that really helps me stay in this space is getting outside. I went for a run actually right before this podcast because it's a rare 40 something degree day in Boston, which is warm for us. Moving your body, right? I think having some sort of practice around that mindset can be so supportive.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. Because pregnancy is so obviously time limited, right? Like we all know that it is going to end. So even when it's hard or you're not feeling well, you do in your bones know that it is not going to be forever. There's something different about when you've got a new baby. Like I definitely remember feeling like, well, this is life now, forevermore. And it's weird, right? Like how you can't see that it's actually limited. Like the baby is going to grow. You are going to move out of these phases, but it's such an interesting thing. And so that also relates to growing a business, right? Like, because there are definitely different stages of growing a business, and some of them are harder and some of them are less hard, but hanging on to that growth mindset is a perfect way to see your way through to the other side. So tell me a little bit more about some of those strategies that you've got, to really, because it's all, it's easy to say, oh, just remember that it's time limited, but tell me a little bit more about some of those practical approaches to actually feel into that mindset.
Totally. So one of my clients actually that I'm working with right now is a coach as well. And one mantra that we came up with for her that I just absolutely love and want to share with all of you is my body is healthy, my baby is healthy, my business is healthy. Because one thing that she was really struggling with was not only, dealing with kind of all of the anxiety, right, about being pregnant and having a baby and the actual labor and delivery part, but how that was going to affect her business, right? So again, the whole thing that we're talking about, growing a business and a baby at the same time. So having some mantra like that, my body is healthy, my baby is healthy, my business is healthy, just to connect back to when you're not feeling grounded about what's happening, I think is so, so, so important. The other piece that I would say from a mindset perspective is while all of these things are, changing and happening, it can feel like so much is out of our control and that so much is unknown, right? Which it is. How are we going to, be a mother and an entrepreneur? How is that all going to fit together? So I think another kind of practical mindset piece is to really lean into that creative and divine feminine energy and really power of pregnancy and allow that to fuel your business, right? So how can you kind of fully be in this space of your womanhood that's happening for you personally and channel all of that into things that you're doing for your business. So maybe your content becomes more infused with that divine feminine energy, right? Maybe you have offers for women, who are going through something similar to you, but using whatever that means for you that's happening personally in your pregnancy to kind of fuel your business, I think is a really key piece as well.
I love that. That's so beautiful. And that mantra is awesome. Like the mantras are so powerful. It's really easy to just dismiss it as being kind of like, it just seems too simple. It's not that easy. But I find that especially with repetition, it's like a muscle. It gets stronger. And even though maybe it's hard to believe at the beginning, I mean, it really is effective. So I love that mantra that you came up with your client.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, for me personally, when I first started learning about this and energy and mindset, I was like, this is all a little bit too woo for me. So if anyone is listening, I totally hear you. I was you. And it's, as you said, once you really start kind of incorporating these things into a daily practice, and that doesn't have to mean that you spend an hour every morning, journaling and meditating, right? As I said, I have a 2-year-old. That's not something that's practical for me, right? I'm up by like 6:30 every day with my baby. So it's really figuring about how you can fit kind of these things into your day. So whether it's, again, that mantra that you say to yourself when you feel yourself kind of holding a negative story in your mind about whatever is going on, maybe it's keeping like a sticky note open on your phone and you write down, 3 things that you're grateful for. And you can do that. You can do that when you go to the bathroom. I have a client who does her gratitude list when she's on the toilet, which is like actually one of my favorite things ever. Because,
awesome.
right, it's about figuring out like what works for you. So there's no kind of one size fits all approach, right? You can do this when you're on a walk with your baby. You can do it when you're in the shower. But having, again, I think something that you kind of tell yourself to ground in can just be really, really connecting.
Yeah, that's perfect. Oh, and exactly about the like going to the woo. I find that it's I mean exactly the same. Like of course, you and I both come from a very traditional kind of education, conventional evidence-based medicine, and there's really no room for for any of those kind of like spiritual practices and things like that in there. And so for me, I found like just giving myself permission to explore that side of things and not dismissing it outright, but giving myself permission really just to kind of embrace that and see how that feels. So yeah, I love that. That's so great.
That. Yeah, I think along with that is, I find a lot of people both in pregnancy and in business. I think there is a temptation, to compare yourself to other people, right? Like, oh, well, how is
Yes.
she growing her business? Like, what is she doing with her marketing? Or, how is she, out into, a walk in her pre-pregnancy clothes already, right? Like, it's our tendency to kind of compare. And I think when you're in this space, both with your baby and with your business, that connecting to the fact that it doesn't have to look for you how it looks for someone else is just like the ultimate freedom, right? Like not worrying about what other people will think is so, so freeing. And this is really an opportunity for your baby and for your business for you to create what works for you. And that might be different than what works for somebody else.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's all about that creating an aligned life and business and family, that works for you. And it is not necessarily going to be the same way, probably isn't going to be the same as what works for somebody else. And it's more than fine. It's actually the way that it needs to be. But
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so let's get into some more strategy stuff. Like tell me, I'd love to hear, what kinds of practical, tactical things a mom can do to set herself up for success as she's trying to pursue her own dreams and raise a family at the same time.
Oh my gosh, yes, totally. So important. So the first strategy piece I would say is building a support team. Again, both for your business and for your baby. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you have a business, if you don't have anyone else working on your team, pregnancy is a great time to start building your professional support team, right? So maybe it's just hiring one person, right? Maybe it's hiring a virtual assistant to take some of the back end tasks off of your plate. Maybe it's hiring a graphic designer. Maybe it's hiring, someone to do some of your social media and marketing. Whatever the piece is for you that is, maybe occupying a lot of your time or that mental mindset, again, kind of headspace, hiring someone to help with that. And then the same thing is true for postpartum. So one of my favorite things that I do with my clients is to create a concrete postpartum plan. And within the process of doing that, we kind of go through everything that they do in their whole day. So they take, a few days out of the week, write down everything they do from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to sleep. And the purpose is really to try to figure out what things they have to do themselves. So like brushing their teeth, right? Or taking a shower. No one is going to do that for you. And then what thing, right? I don't think so. And then what things can be done by somebody else. So taking out the garbage, cooking dinner, right? So that we really have this comprehensive list. And I encourage people to do that both for their personal life and for their business, right? So that you can see literally in front of you in black and white all of the areas where you can get support. So that's kind of the first strategy piece that I would say.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And especially like if you can get yourself your ducks in a row in pregnancy, or at least get a head start on that process, that is ideal for sure. But yeah, I mean, always asking yourself, who else could do this? That's what I like to, many women are like this, you want to do everything yourself, right? Like that's just kind of how many of us are hardwired, but getting into the habit of saying, who else could do this? It's just a great way of reframing things and taking a look at what you can actually outsource, because there are so many more things that we can outsource in our personal and professional lives that we just hang on to things. I think it's just the way that we are, right?
Yes, it can definitely be hard to change, but so important.
Important.
The kind of second piece I think that goes along with that is looking at and reevaluating your capacity, right? Because when you are pregnant, when you're a new mom, the kind of pace or the capacity that you've been holding as a business owner is likely going to change, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I find a lot of my clients are worried about that, but it's not necessarily something bad, right? This is an opportunity to kind of reevaluate your capacity and to adjust your business targets accordingly, right? So you want to look at whatever your trimester, you are in, right? If you're in the first trimester and you're feeling tired, like what realistically are you going to be able to do in terms of your business, the tasks and time that you're dedicating to certain things? And then what do you want to make your goals for that time period, for that quarter or for the year or whatever, so that at the end of the day, you're not feeling like you didn't hit a bunch of things in your business that you had planned because you just readjusted for the space and the season that you're in.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's about being in reality, right? Like I'm all for setting big goals and having like big aspirations, but there's also, it's important to be in reality about what is actually possible in exactly what you said, like this season. I mean, it is a season, right? Otherwise, you are just setting yourself up for a lot of frustration. And that is what leads people to just give up on the whole project, right?
Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely. And along those lines, the kind of, other strategy piece I would say is taking times to celebrate wins, right? So big and small in motherhood and in your business, right? So I don't know, an example of like a small win when you're a new mom is literally like putting on clean pajamas. At least I don't know if this was for you, but for me, that totally felt like a win if I, if I had the energy to take off the pajamas that I'd slept in and put on new clean pajamas. Like that should be freaking celebrated because that is amazing. And then finding similar things in your business, right? It doesn't have to be like a huge launch or, a new, amazing client, right? You want to celebrate the small and big things along the way.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that we celebrate nearly enough. We're also hard on ourselves and we're always looking for, okay, well, what's next? What's next? What's next? Without really taking the time to just celebrate those things. And exactly like you said, like celebrating the small wins of motherhood and being a mom and raising your kids and also celebrating those wins in your business. So I love that strategy. That's a gratitude practice for sure too, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, right. What other things? What other strategies do you have that you could offer to our listeners who are entrepreneurs and moms?
Totally. So, from like a super practical standpoint, if in your business you don't currently have like a task management system or something, this is a great time to implement something like that. So, when I say task management system, I mean something like ClickUp or Asana. There's a bunch of others. But really, this is the time to simplify and streamline whatever systems you have, both in your business and in your personal life, right? So, if you are managing your business, but you might also be managing your household. Where can you kind of simplify and streamline? And this goes back to also getting support, right? Who can you enlist to kind of be on your support team? But having some strategy, a concrete tool that really holds all of these pieces, whether that's a shared, Google Calendar with your partner for your personal life and a task management system for your business, whatever it's going to be that works for you. And it's going to have some system so that you're not holding all of this information in your head.
Oh, yeah. I am all about tools and systems. I love that stuff. So I use Asana. I haven't heard of ClickUp. What's that? Tell me about that one.
Yeah, so that's actually the one I use, which is why it came to my head. It's pretty similar to Asana, where you can have different tasks and lists with due dates and assignments for different people. For my brain, it just works better than Asana, but is super similar.
Cool. Maybe I'll look it up and put it in the show notes too for people because I agree. Like having it's just too hard to hold it all in your head, and that just takes up energy. And who has extra energy, right?
Exactly. Totally. And so that, yeah, I think, along those energy guidelines, is brings me to my kind of last practical tip, which I would say is calendar consolidation. And this is definitely for people that have a business where they're doing client facing work. So, coaches that are doing one-on-one sessions or groups, maybe, podcast interviews, whatever, but consider batching client facing days or days where you're having kind of meetings to 2 to 3 days per week. When you have a baby, and your mind is even more divided than it is now, having these dedicated days, I think, for client facing work can be so helpful, so that the other days in your week and the other time that you're devoting to your business can really be like dedicated CEO days for you to work on creating content or back end tasks in these long form blocks, instead of having days that are all kind of broken up and choppy with different things to do.
Yes, absolutely. I'm totally on board with that. That's what I do actually cuz I mean having
Love
client
it.
facing days like getting yourself, it's sometimes some days it's harder than others, right? Like to get yourself camera ready and to get it just requires a different kind of energy, right? But yeah, I like how you called them CEO days. I actually call those my bat cave days because
Oh my gosh, I
I
love that.
I know because I have two boys, so we're all about superheroes here. But yeah, I mean, so like I'm just in the bat cave. Nobody's seeing me. I'm like working on stuff behind the scenes and, building new things and working on new projects. And it doesn't require my energy going out to other people. So that then on the days that I do have, like you say, client facing days, that's just a different kind of energy. So yeah, I love
Yeah,
that
I do that in my
suggestion.
business as well. And I think it's so helpful, especially as a new mom, right? There are certain days, my CEO days or my bat cave days, where I work like, in my sweatpants all day, and it's
Yes.
great. So yeah, definitely requires kind of a different energy and a different feel than my client facing days.
Yeah, that is so great. I love that. Yeah, a lot of, as we're talking, some of the things that are coming up for me, and I imagine is going to be a thing that some of the listeners are wondering about too, is the issue of like mom guilt, right? Like as we're juggling both of these things, both things that we are super passionate about, like babies that we love and that we want to raise and all of that, and also a business that we want to grow, and I've yet to encounter a mother who doesn't feel some degree of like mom guilt around that? Like, how do do you have any ideas or strategies or anything that you, or a reframe or anything?
Oh my gosh, I love this question so much. Yeah, so mom guilt is, as you said, like super, super prevalent. And I think, the goal should not be to have zero mom guilt, right? Like we're all, as you said, going to feel some degree of push and pull. And depending on the day, the week, the season, right? The kind of balance and equation is going to change. So I think the first step is really being super honest for yourself what that kind of right balance is in the moment, because it's going to change. So I think acknowledging also that it's not like a fixed equation is just really, really freeing, and not comparing it to somebody else. So not dividing your time by what you think you should do, right? Like maybe society is telling you like, you shouldn't work all the time. You should be with your kids more. Or maybe the opposite is true for you. Maybe you feel like the people around you are saying like, what do you mean you're not dedicating that much time to your business? You're, just staying home with your kids. I hate when people use the word just as if to like diminish what comes after it, right? So I think really tuning in to what feelings you have about that, and then making an equation kind of from there that fits your life in that moment is really like the first step.
Yeah, that's perfect. And exactly what you said, about not expecting that you're going to have, like, the goal is not zero mom guilt, because
Right.
I mean, let's face it, it's real. It's really is real. But continuing to work on that like a muscle, like when you are at work or when you are working on your business, really be present with that. When you're with your kids, and I sometimes am pretty guilty of this, like, being half of my brain is still in my business and doing stuff rather than just really truly being present. I think it's so important.
Totally. So I think the second piece really is creating those concrete boundaries, right? So once you have the equation in your head of what you feel, feels most true and in alignment for you, then you make boundaries that are in alignment with that, right? So for you, does that mean you don't look at your cell phone until 9 a.m. when your kids are at school and, you're not having breakfast with them, right? So you don't do any team check-ins, you don't do client check-ins, you don't check your email before that time. Maybe it's at the end of the day where you have kind of a hard cutoff at 4 or 5 or 6 p.m., whatever it is, and your cell phone kind of goes in a kitchen drawer is a strategy I use, because I, like you, am totally guilty of sometimes not being fully present with my daughter. And then I feel guilty about that, right? So having some sort of boundary that feels like it's in alignment with your goals and that you can stick to, I think can also feel really, really good.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Boundaries are, that's so important. And also giving yourself grace when you maybe, the boundary gets blurred.
Yes. Endless grace. Endless.
Yes. Okay, cool. So, you have just done such an amazing job. I mean, I've absolutely loved watching your business blossom and evolve. And I would love to know, just to kind of pick your brain a little bit, like what are some of the lessons that you as a mom and an entrepreneur, like in the trenches, like what are some of the lessons that you personally, or like the biggest challenge that you overcame in building your business?
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much. You were such a key person in helping me to get the concrete steps and the confidence to launch my own business. So I am forever grateful to you. I would say, maybe the biggest lesson that I've learned is not being afraid to get off the train. And I'll explain what I mean by that. I think, so for my professional side, as I mentioned, I'm a physician. I trained in the traditional medical system. And in that system, there really is this culture of continuing education, right? So we do 4 years of college, then 4 years of medical school, then a certain number of years of residency, and then you can go on and get more training and fellowship and kind of on and on and on and on. And it could be never ending, right? Where you just keep seeking out kind of more training and the next best thing and the highest level of academic achievement. And that's often, at least to me, was presented as kind of the best or the only acceptable option. And then similarly, in my personal life, I think in today's society, there really is this archetype of what a mother looks like, right? Like she endlessly pours from her, never ending cup, right? She's just a fountain overflowing and giving to other people. And really what a mother needs to do is ask for help, accept support, right? I think the definition of a mother is not someone who endlessly gives, but someone who knows that receiving is just as important as giving, right? And so both in a professional life and personal life, I've had to kind of change these narratives for myself and really learn to not be afraid to kind of get off the path that has kind of been defined both in medicine and in motherhood.
1,000 times yes to everything you just said. Oh my God, it's so true. But it takes a lot of courage, like for both of those, aspects of like getting off. I think of it as that you said that it's getting off the train. I think of it as a conveyor belt. It's like a conveyor belt of like, for sure, like traditional medical career, but also so many other like professional or corporate careers. It's a conveyor belt. You get on and you just like ride it and carry on in this really prescribed pathway. But equally like motherhood too, like being the, picture of what we have all have in our minds of the ideal mother, and then having the courage to find a different way and receiving support. I love that so much. But yeah, so how did you find the courage to do all of those things, like to step off of the train?
Oh my goodness. Well, it certainly was not easy and something that I struggled with for all of the reasons that you just said. I think, for me, really the first step was admitting to myself that I wasn't happy, right? That pursuing a traditional medical career, that kind of showing up as a mother who endlessly gives and doesn't really prioritize her own needs, those things were not making me happy. And that's right, like not to get like too woo, but that's the point of life, is to be happy, right? To be with the people who love us and that we love, and to enjoy each other. And I really didn't feel like that was happening for me. So kind of allowing myself to see that was really the first step. And then the second step was getting support. So you, as I mentioned already, were definitely one of my key support people in the beginning for building my business. And then personally getting support on the childcare side, getting support with some of our household tasks really allowed me not just kind of the physical time and space, but the mental time and space to be free from kind of all of these other things, right? Because the mental load, that is a kind of hot button term right now, right? That kind of refers to all the information that typically women hold in their head about different tasks, right? It's really about being the keeper of all of the tasks and the energy that takes to hold the information, not to mention the energy it takes to kind of execute on all of the tasks. So getting support both in my business and in my personal life was really the key thing that allowed me to get off the train.
Yes, agreed. And I think one of the things that you just said is really important, like that you recognize that you weren't happy and that wasn't okay and that something needed to change. Because I think actually that it seems like a really obvious thing, but I actually think that it's not that obvious, because I think we've got this culture both around like careers, certainly medical careers, but also motherhood it's sort of irrelevant whether you're feeling like happy or not, because
Totally.
it's like this grin and bear it, like grit your teeth and make it through. Like medical education for sure is like that, and training and all of that. And also motherhood, like it's, we've got this kind of like story around like how hard it is that it's supposed to be hard, and you're supposed to like martyr yourself to this whole situation. And really, like, it sounds like you questioned that. You're like, wait a second, something's not right here. Like maybe it doesn't, what if it doesn't have to be this hard? What if I could get help on this? Like, what if there is a better way?
Yes, that's exactly it. Motherhood is like the Wild West, I sometimes say. Like, it is not safe culturally to admit that we have those feelings, to say out loud, like, motherhood is hard. I'm struggling. I need help, right? Like, societally, broadly speaking, it can often feel like the culture is not a safe place to say some of those things out loud. So I think really, freeing yourself and admitting those things to myself, I'll speak for me, like saying those things to inside of my brain out loud was really the first step that allowed me to then kind of question and say these things out loud and get the support that I really needed both in my business and in my family.
Yes, of course. And until you can actually say them to yourself, you're just going to be accepting the paradigm of the way that it's supposed to be, and you won't question it. And then it just ends up being so much harder than it really
Exactly.
needs to be. So I love that so much. Yeah, I mean, what would you say? Like, what was the? Would could you say? Is there an important factor to your success in like balancing this motherhood and business entrepreneurial side? Like what made the biggest difference for you?
I think, really learning to prioritize myself, which again, it sounds so simple, right? Like, I bet some people are thinking, like, what do you mean? Of course, you prioritize yourself, right? Like, you're a person in the world. But I really mean prioritizing my mental well-being and my physical well-being. Like, I didn't when I had a baby, I, like so many other women, just kind of threw exercise to the side, kind of my personal relationships to the side, and was totally focused on this little being, right, who was totally dependent on me and my partner, which is amazing and wonderful. But at the end of the day, I think realizing that a well-adjusted, happy mother, what she does is she's able to raise happy, well-adjusted children, and that's really like the best gift, I think, that you can give to the world. So in order to be that happy, well-adjusted mother, I had to get, again, support for myself, which meant prioritizing exercising, prioritizing eating well, prioritizing starting this business, right? And some people thought I was crazy to start a business with a newborn. But for me, that's what really felt like was going to be in alignment for my future going forward, and connecting back to that kind of deeper why, which for me is raising, being a healthy, well adjusted mother to raise a healthy, well adjusted child, was really grounding.
Yeah, connecting into that why, that's so important because that will see you through a lot of the challenges and hard times. And for sure, there's no doubt that there are definitely challenges to doing that. So I love that. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, what are some action steps a listener can take right now? Like, let's say a mom who she's got some big dreams and some aspirations, and she's got kids that she loves to pieces, and she's in the thick of raising them. So, what is the very first thing that she can do to get moving in the right direction?
Oh my gosh, love that. So, first of all, if that's you, congratulations, because again, being able to admit that to yourself is the first step and so, so important. So, I think after that, after you've said, like, yes, this is my goal, this is what I want to do, the next thing is really to literally just like a brain dump. I think everything going on in your personal and your professional life, like, what are all of the pieces that you are holding together in all of these different places? Because that will allow you to see where you can get support. So, whether it's getting support for your business or support for your family, and probably it's going to look like support in both of those places, that's going to enable you to really get on the road and get started.
That's perfect. That is just like the perfect first step. It's doable. It's like a simple thing that you can do, right now, as soon as this podcast is over.
Absolutely
So
love that.
yeah. Okay. So Ariana, tell us, what are you working on right now? Like, what is your, what's a project? Give us a little reveal of something that you're excited about that you're doing right now.
Oh my gosh, this month, so March is my birth month. My birthday is actually tomorrow.
Oh,
And
happy birthday.
oh my gosh, thank you. I love my birthday. Like, I'm obsessed with my birthday. So this year, to celebrate my birthday and to celebrate kind of all birthing women, right? Because I believe that on your birthday, you should not only, be celebrated and celebrate yourself, but really you should celebrate the person who birthed you, your mothers. So in addition to celebrating my mom, I'm celebrating all birthing women by offering my Power Hour, which is a 60-minute private session completely tailored to the needs of whoever I'm working with. It's for women who are pregnant or postpartum, really at any stage in the first year. I am offering that for 333 for the month of March, which is at a discount from what it's normally offered at, to really help people develop their own postpartum plan, help them with breastfeeding, help them with newborn development, partner dynamics, really whatever issue they feel like is their kind of biggest concern in their pregnancy or postpartum journey. And I am just so excited to be able to offer that right now.
Oh my gosh, what an awesome opportunity. You guys, if you are in that category, if you are, pregnant, postpartum, anywhere along that journey, you definitely need to take advantage of that offer. I will for sure link that in the show notes, definitely. So, yeah. Amazing. Well, we are just about out of time, and this has been so amazing, Ariana. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me and share, so much valuable information with our listeners. But before we go, so tell us where can people go? For sure that opportunity, like that power hour, definitely. Where else could people go to learn a bit more about you and your work and the things that you're doing in the world?
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Kim. This has been super fun. So I do have a free postpartum planning template on my website that if you are pregnant, you need to download right now. It's going to walk you through a lot of these things that we just talked about. You can grab that at my website for free, which is arianawitkin.com. And if you're on social, jump on Instagram, follow me at Ariana Witkin MD for postpartum strategies, newborn tips, feel good stories about other clients. I would love to connect with you on there.
So great. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, good stuff. We'll link all of that stuff in the show notes too. All right. This has been so amazing, Ariana. I have just absolutely loved talking to you, and I really appreciate your time and sharing all of your amazing and juicy wisdom.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me.
So wasn't that great? I mean, Ariana just gave you so many tools and tips and reframes to help you on your journey to building your business while also raising kids. I'm sure that there were some juicy pieces of advice in there for you. I also want to mention that if you enjoyed experiencing Ariana's wisdom, in addition to all the other projects that she's got on the go, she is also one of my superstar guest experts inside my wellness coach certification program, the Wellness Coach Academy. I have pulled together a really fantastic lineup of top-notch experts and teachers to give my students a rich grounding in wellness and coaching from many different angles. So if that sounds of interest to you, then I invite you to check out my program. I will put the link in the show notes, or you can just head to wellnesscoachacademy.com. Okay, that's a wrap for today. I hope that you enjoyed this. I would love to hear your takeaways from today. Hop over onto Instagram, take a screenshot of your podcast player on your phone as you've been listening to this, and then tag me and Ariana on Instagram and let us know what was one piece of advice that gave you a shift or an insight. We would love to hear about it. Okay, have an awesome day, and I will talk to you again next week. Thanks so much for listening. If you are ready to build a coaching business that gives you freedom and flexibility and allows you to make a meaningful impact in the world, but you're not really sure how to get started or what you need to do to attract the perfect clients and grow your income, then let me be your coach. I would love to teach you my exact framework, my proven method for how I created a freedom-based business for myself and how I've helped dozens of clients do the same thing and create a life that is better than their dreams. Get started by heading over to drkimfoster.com/business training, and there you can sign up for my free online training called The 4-Part Formula for Replacing Your 9-to-5 Income with a Coaching Business You Love.